We have been building the information superhighway for 30 years. In some parts of the country, technology brings that highway right past our doors with virtually no speed limits. Private investment by telecom giants has helped build those fiber optic networks for the most part. But get off the beaten path and that highway just isn't even built yet, despite billions in incentives to make it happen. Tonight, we look at how we cover that last mile with broadband when it's a country mile left to go.
You've seen the old payphone out there. It still has the TDS Telecom on it. We keep it out there for nostalgia purposes.
It's ironic that a nostalgic memento like a former payphone is found in a place where technology always seems to show up late.
So I've been here 28 years, and I was here several years before dial-up came in, a few years, not very many years. We had rotary phones. Remember that party lines back in the late 80s were still here. I believe in the late 80s is when TDS Telecom bought this, and they were still on party lines.
Bruce Grubb has been making connections in this quintessential one-stoplight town of Rison his whole life. You'll hear him on the airwaves calling Rison Wildcats football. But his life has been spent connecting far-flung homes here with telephone wires. Only now, he's excited to say, they've got fiber.
In the last 10 years, it's amazing the technology changes and the equipment that's available now.
A decade seems to be typical when it comes to the spread of technology. Consider the parallels to that payphone. Alexander Graham Bell's wondrous new invention came along in 1876. Then the telephone went from blueprints to a citywide exchange in Little Rock just 3 years later. Papers hailed the technology as revolutionary. Like today, wiring the countryside did take some time. Unlike today, though, the rush to get that wiring done with broadband cables hit a snag for a simple reason.
Money. Yep, it's the same reason we don't have a Walmart here in Cleveland County. It's $75,000 a mile now to put this fiber in the ground. That's your engineering cost. You know, you've got to have permits, easements, right-of-ways. It's a lot that goes into it.
In the late 1800s, railroad barons funded the wiring of the country. Today's technology barons don't have the same incentive to reach those potential customers, especially at those costs. Enter state and federal government.
The Arkansas State Broadband Office has dispersed over $500 million in grants to date.
You heard State Broadband Director Glenn Howie write $500 million in Arkansas alone.
That's before we get to the $1 billion program, the Broadband Equity, Access, and Deployment, or BEAD program, which we will roll out beginning in January.
The pandemic threw gas on the fire to get broadband everywhere. Sadly, post-pandemic inflation fired up the costs. A $25 million program begun during the Hutchinson administration called Arkansas Connect missed its rural broadband goals in 2022. But that BEAD program Howie referred to emerged from Congress with the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act. Now there are signs that kind of money is finally getting more players involved.
We kind of have been fairly focused on broadband for probably about the last 20 or so years.
Marcus Bott is the operations director for Rally Networks. He's Bruce Grubb's boss. His family's business model has been centered on delivering connectivity to small towns like the one he grew up in Idaho. They've been at it for 20 years, expanding in Rison and Kingsland, but expect more competition as that BEAD money starts flowing.
For Kingsland and Rison, we have 20 to 30 miles of backhaul to get to a community that you build at oftentimes upward of $100,000 a mile. And so, without those kinds of subsidies for grants and some things like that, it does make some of the rural markets pretty challenging.
If you're living in a place where those challenges remain, it can be frustrating. But take solace in that we're at least ahead of our neighbors and more money is coming.
We're now approaching 45 ISPs that are getting ready to participate in this program, as opposed to some states where they're having trouble getting any ISPs to want to participate.
For us in rural areas, we think we see a pretty bright future. I don't know that we can necessarily make any promises for where we're going in the future, but we're definitely actively looking at what we can and can't do.
Now, Grubb told me two stories about happy customers now that they have high-speed internet down there. The first, the local paper went from taking hours to send their weekly edition to the printer to down about 90 seconds. And the other story many of us with kids can relate to, he thinks his son is happy because ever since getting connected, he hasn't heard yelling coming from his room that the video game is lagging.